Hey guys, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And if this is your first time here, I want to thank you for checking out my channel. If you're a regular, welcome back. This is a movie channel, so everything I talk about here is movie related. I do reviews, top 10 lists, collection updates, and videos that I post every week where I give you a few selections for Blu-rays and rentals to watch at home, as well as a few options for anyone who wants to head out and see a movie in the theater. So if this is the type of content you're interested in, this is the point where I tell you to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll know when I upload my videos. And what I have for you today is a Criterion Collection review. I have chosen 3 films from my collection that I'm going to break down and review for you guys so you can decide if you want to put them on your list for the November sale. Because since we're all broke from the July sale, we're now making our list for November. Also, I just wanted to point out that Amazon still has some films at like the $22 price point. So if any of these films fall into that, I'll definitely link it in the description box. So before I get going with my films, I just wanted to give a special shout out to a friend and fellow YouTuber, and his name is Dissect Beppu. And he comes to us from Tokyo, and what a collection he has. He has got the entire Criterion collection, and when I say entire, I mean 1 to whatever number we're at. And he has them on Laserdisc and DVD and Blu-ray, and this was my introduction to his channel, watching his, I think it was 3 videos it took him to actually go through his entire collection. He's a horror fan, he's got some great Arrow titles, he's got all kinds of collections. And he also does movie reviews. So if you haven't checked out his channel yet, I highly recommend it. I'm going to link him in the description box as well. And he is such a nice guy, and I am so grateful that we have become friends through our mutual love of film. And I always tell him that I am so in awe of him every time I watch him. Just his ability to articulate his thoughts, and his reviews are always so insightful and thoughtful, and he's just a really, really nice guy. He's very interactive with his audience, which I think is really important, because if people take the time to watch our videos and leave comments, I think it's really important to interact with them. So he does the same thing, so I think you're really, really going to like him. So definitely check him out in the description box. Go over there and show him some love, give him a sub, and tell him I said hello. So I'm going to get going with my first film, and it is Spine number 4, and it is Federico Fellini's Amarcord. And this was my first film by Fellini that I watched from start to finish. I had seen clips of Fellini films in a college class that I took, but never anything from start to finish. And I actually own 2 other films, 8½, and this one was a viewer recommendation that I recently picked up, La Dolce Vita. I have not watched them yet, but it will be interesting to see how they compare to Amarcord, because from what I've read, this is one of his later films from 1973, and this is, from what I've read, quite a departure from his typical format, so it'll be interesting. Because what I can tell you about this film is that I watched it, and I turned it off when it was done, and I kind of just sat there and thought to myself, I have no idea what I just watched, but it was awesome. It's great. And it's just amazing how it took me days. I had to sit with it for days before I could even formulate any kind of reasonable thoughts on the movie, besides the fact that I enjoyed it. I can give you a little bit of a review on it, but hopefully it won't be too confusing, because the movie is confusing. And the reason it's confusing is because there isn't any real plot to it. It's just a series of vignettes. And we start out, and they show us that it's the end of winter, and what shows the end of winter is that there's these little white puffs that are coming out of the sky, and that tells them that spring is coming. So to celebrate the coming of spring, they have a bonfire in the middle of town, and this is where we meet our cast of characters. We meet the blind accordion player, we meet the town prostitute, we meet the lady who sells the tobacco products, we meet members of the main family, and so on and so forth. So you get to see who you're going to be dealing with and who you're going to be meeting in the movie. So after the bonfire, the vignettes start. And I have heard, and it says it right on the back of this, that this is Fellini's most personal film, and it is somewhat autobiographical, which becomes apparent when we meet the main family. And you have the father and the son, the mom, the uncles, the housekeeper, all the people hanging out in the house, and they're eating and they're fighting at dinner, and in particular the father and son really butt heads a lot because he thinks his son is a hooligan because he's a typical teenage boy running around playing pranks with his friends, getting in trouble in school, the typical stuff. And he thinks the boy should be working, and the mother is cooking and cleaning and trying to keep the father and son from killing each other, and she's trying to keep peace in the house. So you see the family dynamics right away. And then it'll break from that, and it'll go to a picture, a vignette of the young son over at confession, and the priest asking him if he honors his mother and father, and does he have any impure thoughts, and he's like, well, maybe, and then you see his impure thoughts, and it's hilarious. This is such a funny movie, and it's just interesting that each of these vignettes take place, and they don't really seem to fit together, but they kind of do. And I think the way that they kind of hold it together is through the change of seasons. Like I said, we start out where it's the end of winter, we move to spring, summer, fall, and back to winter. And those kind of set the parameters for all these vignettes that go on in between, which really felt more just like a stream of consciousness. Like whatever came into his head is what the vignette was going to be. We have some vignettes on fascism and how they deal with that. We have an episode where the family, the main family, picks up the uncle who appears to be in some sort of mental hospital, and they take him out to lunch, which becomes a huge disaster. We have family members who get sick. We have the woman who is supposed to be supposedly the most beautiful woman in town who's consumed with the fact that she's never going to find a husband. And then we have another vignette where there's a huge boat going through past the town because it's a seaside town. And everybody goes out to see the boat, and the next thing you know, the blind accordion player shows up, and he's playing in the water asking everyone what the boat looks like. So these are the kind of things that go on, and you can see that they kind of don't fit together, but you still have your same cast of characters. And it's really like nothing I've ever seen before. I have never experienced anything like this before. But I loved it. I thought it was great. It's hilarious. There are parts that are sad. It pulls at your heartstrings at times. And it just really runs you through the whole gamut of emotions. So, yeah, I would definitely say if you haven't taken a look at Amarcord, definitely put it on your list and give it a watch, because it's a really unique experience. And like I said, it is like nothing I have ever seen before, but I really enjoyed it. And it looks great. It has a high definition digital transfer. It comes with some audio commentary, and then there's an interesting documentary, which it sounds interesting. I have not seen it yet. It's a 45-minute documentary on the complicated relationship between Fellini and his hometown. And the seaside town that this takes place in is a fictitious town, but it's supposed to represent the town of Rimini, which was his favorite town. And if you look in the case, now I've shown this before in another video, but I'll show it again in case you didn't see it. You see the change of seasons here, and then you see the back, you see Mussolini there, and then it comes with a really nice essay book. And in the front of the essay book, the beginning of the essay book, is a very detailed review of the movie by a movie critic. And then in the back, the second half of the book, and actually most of the book, is an actual essay by Fellini called My Rimini, where he talks about the town. And I believe he did this essay at a point when he was hospitalized and he believed he was terminally ill. So that should prove to be a good read. I started to read it and it was pretty good. So yeah, definitely you want to check out the essay book. But I would say Amarcord is a go, and if you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to give it a look. Whether you're a fan of Fellini or not, it is definitely a very unique and just a fun watch. Just have fun with it. Go in with no expectations. So what I'm going to do is, because my camera cuts me off after a certain amount of time, I'm just going to cut away, grab my second movie, and I will be right back. Okay guys, I'm back, and I have my second film ready to roll. Spine number 906, I, Daniel Blake. And this is from 2016, and we meet our main character, Daniel Blake, who is a 59-year-old carpenter who has suffered a heart attack, leaving him unable to work. So he is trying to apply for basically what we would call in the U.S. Disability or workers' comp benefits, because his doctor has told him he is not able to go back to work yet. So the movie starts out with him on a phone call being given a medical assessment. They ask him if he can walk 50 meters, can he raise his arms up to put something in his shirt pocket, and ultimately he's denied benefits. But then he goes to, so he's sent over to what we in the States would call unemployment, where you have to be ready, willing, and able to accept any work that's given to you. And since he doesn't qualify for disability, he has to go through unemployment. But he knows he can't accept any job that's offered. So you see right away that he is now caught in this labyrinth of social services. And the problem is that everywhere he goes, they tell him that he needs to apply online, or he needs to have get a phone number, and it's online. And he does not have a computer. He does not use computers. He does not have a smartphone. He doesn't have any of the tools that they tell him are required for him to even get to the point where he can appeal the decision for his not being eligible for benefits. And he's clearly eligible. He's medically unwell. He is not fit to work. And yet he's denied benefits because apparently he is not sick enough. But through the film, he tries to keep his spirits up. He's friendly with his neighbors. There's a lot of humor. He is really trying to keep a good attitude. He does what they tell him to do. He goes where they tell him to go. And through his travels, he meets Katie, who is a single mom of two who was evicted from her apartment and is kind of stuck in the same situation. So even when he is down and out and at the lowest point that he's been, he's still trying to help other people. So you see what a good-hearted guy he is and how hard he's working just to try to get his life together. And I can tell you, this was a great movie. It's an amazing watch, and it is an amazing look at a real problem. And I know when this film was shown at Cannes, it caught the eye of some government officials from Britain, and it forced Parliament to really take a look at what their broken system that is just crushing people who desperately need help. And it ended up having thousands of people writing in, telling similar stories to what's going on in this movie. And it even caught, there was a Twitter hashtag that popped up. I think it was "We Are All Daniel Blake," and they said it went wild on Twitter. So this is a real problem, and it's not just a problem in Britain, it's also a problem in the United States. I know, I've been in that situation where you're disabled for whatever, a work injury or a health injury, a health issue. You're not able to go back to work. You're not sick enough to be on disability, but yet you're not well enough to actually work. And let me tell you, it is a nightmare to be caught in this. And this film portrays that so well. It shows him being on hold for hours on end, waiting to get the information from a live person that he has sitting in a letter right in front of him, but it tells him that he has to get the information over the phone as well. So they just make it so hard that they're hoping that if it's hard enough that people will just give up and drop out. But if they give up, they're going to lose everything. They're going to be homeless. And at one point in the movie, he actually has to sell all his belongings just to keep a roof over his head. So this was a really, it was good, but it was also very sad, and it was a very real look at a real problem, and it felt so relevant. And like I said, it's from 2016. So this is a problem that is relevant in a lot of places. And if you haven't yet seen I, Daniel Blake, I can't recommend it enough, because it is a really important film, and it really tackles a very important and pressing issue for a lot of people. And I mean, even here in the United States, social services, it's a mess. Unemployment's a mess. Workers' comp is a mess. The healthcare system is a mess. And obviously in Britain, it's the same thing. So yeah, if you haven't seen this, definitely give it a watch. It has a 2K transfer. It looked amazing. It was a beautifully shot film. The sound was amazing. Everything's authorized by Ken Loach, the director. They have the documentary on the production of I, Daniel Blake, and life and films of Ken Loach. So there's a documentary about the director. It doesn't really come with a big essay book, but it does come with this fold-out leaflet that gives you information about the film, and also the result of what happened after it was viewed at Cannes, and how this film really caught fire for a lot of, and lit a fire under a lot of people for, like I said, a real pressing problem and a real social issue in a lot of places. So yeah, Daniel Blake, I can't recommend it enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my third and final film, and I will be right back. Okay guys, I have my last movie, and then we're going to call it a day. This one is Spine number 608, Harold and Maude. And I can tell you right off the bat, this one is a real good time. It's a lot of fun, and I just loved it. We start off meeting our first main character, Harold, who comes from a very wealthy family. And Harold is obsessed with death. He's obsessed with trying to kill himself. And actually, the first scene in the film is him in the family parlor simulating hanging himself. And his mother comes in to see him hanging from the ceiling, and she just says to him, you know, Harold, cut it out. So she is very accustomed to finding him in these various situations. He tries to drown himself in the pool, and he attempts to light himself on fire. So this is an ongoing problem. And she sends him to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist can't help him, and then she decides that she's going to put him on these dating sites, because she decides what he needs is some friends, and in particular female friends his own age, to make him more interested in living. And he openly admits that he has no friends. One of the other things that he likes to do is attend funerals of people he does not know. And while he's attending these funerals, this older woman keeps catching his eye. He keeps seeing her at the same funerals that he's at, and that turns out to be our other main character, Maude. So she at one point approaches him, and she's 79 years old, so there's a huge age difference between them. She approaches him and asks him, you know, do you know these people? And he admits he doesn't, she doesn't, you know, she admits the same thing, she doesn't know them either. And she asks him for a ride, or offers him a ride, and they end up in this car that she has stolen. And what we find out through the movie is that every time she needs a ride somewhere, she just steals a car and off they go. So stealing cars is just one of her other hobbies, besides going to funerals of people she does not know. And she invites Harold back to her house because she wants to show him where she lives and get to know him. And he reluctantly goes, and her home, immediately you see that her home, she's very eclectic. There's all kinds of art pieces and photos, and there's a piano, there's a little bit of everything in there, and he's a little apprehensive, but he's interested in what she has to offer. And you can see that he wants to be friendly with her, but he's a little standoffish. Eventually he comes around, and she asks him to visit her again, and he does, and they start to strike up this real genuine friendship. And what starts to happen is he starts to realize that Harold is finally making a friend. And so what if she's 79? He doesn't care. And she genuinely cares about Harold. And she wants to teach him, Maude wants to teach Harold that he should embrace life, and that he needs to be happy about living, and he has his whole life to look forward to. And they really form this genuine, sincere, heartfelt friendship, and they really learn a lot from each other. And I can tell you that this is a really beautiful movie about a beautiful and unconventional friendship, and it's funny, and it's sweet, and it's quirky, and it's got a little bit of everything, including a killer soundtrack from Cat Stevens. So if you're a fan of Cat Stevens, you are going to love this movie, if for nothing else for the music. But it is funny, it's heartfelt, there were times that it felt sad, but it is a beautiful, beautiful movie, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you have not seen Harold and Maude, I can't recommend it enough. It is a great watch, and you're going to have a great time with it, and it's one, it kind of sticks with you. And there's some things that go on towards the end I don't want to get into because I don't want to do any spoilers, and that's why I'm kind of just skimming the surface about my review, because I really could spoil it, and I don't want to do that for you guys, because just go in and watch it if you haven't seen it. It's a really, really good one. And this edition is great. It's from 1971, but it looked fantastic. I mean, they did a digital restoration, so it looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. They even have an interview with Cat Stevens on here as one of the extras. So that is probably great. I didn't even watch that yet. It comes with a great essay book. You know, I love my essay books. And one of the interviews in here is with Bud Cort, who is the actor who played Harold. And he talks about his experience working with the actress who played Maude. And what great chemistry they have. So yeah, I mean, I can't recommend this one enough. It is so much fun. It's such a good time, and like I said, it's one of those films that just sticks with you. Harold and Maude, highest recommendation. Definitely check this one out. So that's going to do it for me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this because I really enjoyed doing it for you. And like I said, I'm going to do these throughout the month, so if there are any titles in particular you guys want me to hit on, definitely leave them in the comments, let me know. And if you've seen any of these films, let me know in the comments what your thoughts were. So I want to thank you as always for watching. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch my videos. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, share, like, whatever. Do whatever you like because I appreciate all of it. I appreciate you just showing up and watching. So that is going to do it for me today. I will be back again real soon because, you know, I have my picks of the week coming up, either Wednesday or Thursday. I'll post that one. But until then, that's going to do it, and that's a wrap.